Hello everyone, this is Carly from the future here with a quick disclaimer before the episode continues. I wanted to let you all know that around the 20-minute mark, my microphone dies. So, what does that mean for this episode? The episode is still good. Luckily, I was still audible through Sam's mic. I just don't sound quite as clear and crisp as I normally do when my microphone is charged. But you can still hear me. I amplified my audio as much as I could, and I think it turned out still pretty well. You can make out what I say. The only times that are maybe a little bit harder are when Sam and I are doing a bit more of a back and forth. So if you feel like you need additional help, I did add subtitles for moments like that. It's not throughout the whole video, but in more of those moments where Sam and I are kind of going back and forth with each other, you can look on YouTube and read what I say in addition to hearing what I could, get through on the audio. So I'm really sorry for this, quality issue. Hopefully it will not happen again, but just wanted to let you all know before things get started. Thank you all again for listening. Hey y'all, I'm Carly, and why is everyone in Texas cheating on each other?
And I'm Sam, and why is it always the nice guys?
And welcome to Read Receipts with Carly and Sam, our book-based podcast covering all the latest hits and some stories off the beaten path.
With a few fun and exclusive episodes mixed in between.
And today we are about to engage in some podception, because we are going to be talking about a murder mystery that's so big that it has its own podcast, Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. Again, inserting a picture of it here. I don't have the physical version. If you're watching on YouTube, this is what it looks like.
There you go. Yeah, there is a lot to talk about with this book for today's book club episode. I'm pretty excited to dive into it because there are so many characters and plot points and a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. It gives the vibe of like a documentary or mockumentary in a way, because there's just so many characters. Like, we're in a whole town. And you feel it.
Yeah, for sure. Which makes sense that it has its own podcast, obviously. And that we are now covering it on our podcast, Podception.
Yes. The podcast about the podcast.
The podcast about the podcast about the crime. But before we dive too far into it, we of course have to do our spoiler warning for this episode because there are so many characters. There is a big crime at play here. There are suspects, there are victims. So there's a lot that we're diving into in this episode. So if you haven't read the book and you want to, make sure to just pause right here, go give the book a quick read, then come back and figure out the mystery with us. You've been warned.
You've been warned. But for those of us that are sticking around and you want a refresher on what this book was about, I'm going to read the back of the book summary for you. Lucy and Savvy were the golden girls of their small Texas town. Pretty, smart, and enviable. Lucy married a dream guy with a big ring and an even bigger new home. Savvy was the social butterfly loved by all, and if you believe the rumors, especially popular with the men in town. But after Lucy is found wandering the streets covered in her best friend Savvy's blood, everyone thinks she is the murderer. It's been years since that horrible night, a night Lucy can't remember anything about, and she has since moved to LA and started a new life. But now, the phenomenally huge hit true crime podcast Listen for the Lie and its two good-looking hosts, Ben Owens, have decided to investigate Savvy's murder for the show's second season. Lucy is forced to return to the place she vowed never to set foot in again to solve her friend's murder, even if she's the one who did it. The truth is out there if we just listen.
Okay, so basically, there's a murder, there's a podcast host that's covering the murder.
There's a Texas,
and our main character, our main girl is, I guess everyone believes she's responsible for the murder. So we're kind of trying to figure out the mystery of is this true? What's going on? We're basically Ben Owens.
We are. We're the Ben Owens.
We're the Ben Owens.
Breaking down the mystery.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because to be honest, what did Ben Owens even do exactly? That's what we're here to talk about.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to just randomly shit on Ben.
We're here to, tell the podcast listeners, Carly, how you really feel about Ben.
It's Theo Faber all over again. No, I'm joking. Ben was fine.
Speaking of Ben, we've got a lot of other characters as well. We have our main girl, Lucy. We've got Savvy, who is her best friend, a.k.a. the murder victim. Mm-hmm. We've also got Lucy's parents, Lucy's grandmother.
Yes, Beverly!
Carly's favorite character. We've got, Savvy's parents. We've also got Lucy's ex-husband, Matt, and sometimes her boyfriend, Nathan.
Sometimes.
We've got other boys that are kind of involved or have been involved with either Lucy or Savvy, like Emmett and Colin. We've got Nina, Lucy's high school best friend, who is also now dating Emmett. We've got Paige, who is Ben Owens' assistant. We've got just like a whole bunch of characters. I feel like
There's so many names.
There's so many. I feel like those are really the most important ones. I don't even think all of those are important, but
but they're there.
They're there, yeah. So just a quick rundown of our summary and characters and all of that for you before we really get into it.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about how you felt about the book as a whole?
Yeah, so I ended up rating the book 4 stars. Overall, I did really enjoy the book.
Okay.
I thought it was a lot of fun. I did walk into it thinking it was going to be a little bit more of a thriller. It felt a little bit more cozy to me and more just general mystery than like a full-on thriller. Like I could see how the voice inside her head is a little bit like creepy at first. But for the most part, I was never like too scared at any point. So I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was pretty lighthearted. I really liked Lucy as a main character and her like dark humor about all of it. Obviously Beverly, 10 out of 10 character.
Carly's favorite character.
My favorite character. If we do another Hear Me Out cake, Beverly's showing up. But I would say the one thing that I found detracted a bit from the story was how many characters were in this book.
There were quite a few.
Yeah, and I think it's possible that if I was reading it with my eyes, because I did listen to this one, because it was so highly recommended to listen to this podcast because of the podcast feature of it.
Right.
Which they did do a really good job with, like, differentiating the two. I did like that aspect. But I think it's believable that there would be, like, a lot of these extra characters, like the guy who first finds Lucy when she's walking around, and kind of like all these ancillary just townspeople. But it did then make it a little bit confusing to keep everyone straight as the story went along. Like, we were, like, looking up a list of characters to try and get as many people in as possible, and, like, names would pop up, and I'd be like, who?
Yeah.
Even by the end of the book, like, in one of the last interviews, there's someone named, like, Joan or Joanna, and I was like, we're just...
A townsperson.
Yeah, like, wait, who is this?
Yeah.
So that did at times make it a little bit difficult to follow, but for the most part, I still really enjoyed it. And to be honest, I loved also kind of like Lucy and Ben's banter as well, them as characters. And of course, I love the Texas representation. I say all this as though I'm such a huge Texan. I was literally just born there. but my whole...
Carly's a big fan of Texas, y'all.
My whole family is from Texas. So it feels like it's in my culture. I'm like, these are my people.
She
This
said
is
my
family.
loyalty.
I'm like, that's my grandma. So yeah, I like the Texas of it all. I thought that was fun too. So yeah, I thought it was a really good time. What about you?
I also rated it 4 stars. I really liked it. I really enjoyed the mystery aspect. I'm a big fan of like a mystery thriller. I agree with you that I feel like it was a little bit less thriller, I guess, and more mystery, which didn't affect my rating really. I just noticed that it really wasn't like that suspenseful or that thrilling or anything like that, which was fine with me. I thought it was a fun read. I did like the fact that obviously there's like the podcast element of it, and I thought it would be fun also for us to cover it on our podcast with having a podcast, covering a podcast, podception, if you will. So I thought all of that was really fun. I think you're also correct in saying that there was a large number of characters, and sometimes it was difficult to keep track of these characters, but I do feel like it was, I don't know, important to have that many, because it makes sense that, even though it's a small town, it makes sense that everyone has something to say.
Right.
So it makes sense that there are random, like bartenders, there's the random Joanne or Joanna, I felt as though it made it a little bit more realistic, even though it was kind of difficult to keep track of that. I will say, apart from that, my other biggest criticism, I guess, of the book is when we find out who really did it and who was behind the murder, I feel as though there weren't enough hints, I guess, leading us in that direction. It kind of felt like it came out of nowhere, if I'm being honest. I don't know if you felt that way, but I kind of was like, oh, like I understand that this is a character, and it's an important character, and it makes sense that, you know, he's kind of intertwined in everything that's been going on, but it did kind of feel like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah. I kind of agree. It's such a double-edged sword because I don't like it when mysteries, I feel like, are a little too easy to figure out in some ways. So on one side of it, I thought it was well handled the way that I couldn't figure it out for a long time who exactly it was, and that we did keep kind of twisting it, and there, like, the layout of the information really kept things going in a good way. But yeah, I do agree that it was a little bit abrupt sort of finding that out about Emmett in the end.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't expect it at all.
I didn't either.
It didn't quite hit the mark for me.
Yeah.
So 4 stars for me.
Right. But still, overall.
But still, really
lots of fun.
We did enjoy it. Yeah.
Well, do we want to talk a little bit about the book itself?
Oh, yeah.
The crime.
Get into kind of what we liked the most, maybe what we didn't like also, so.
Yes, yeah. It was a dark and stormy night.
When the crime
happened.
I'm pretty sure it was raining too, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, because they had to close a road.
Yeah.
It was truly a dark and stormy night.
Truly a dark and stormy night.
Everyone was out at the wedding venue celebrating someone's love. I don't remember who.
Someone's wedding.
Probably a character that we were supposed to remember, maybe Joanna. And all of a sudden, Lucy's walking around in Savvy's blood, and then they find Savvy later on the road that no one else could drive on, and she was dead. I think hit by something was how they... Was that determined in, like, their autopsy?
I think so.
Blunt force trauma?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have the dead Savvy. We have Lucy walking around in a ripped dress with blood all over her, and she can't remember a single thing that's happened. When that initial reveal kind of came out, what did you think about, like, did you think Lucy had anything to do with it? Like, what did you think about that whole situation?
I just felt like there was no way. I was going to be genuinely disappointed, like, just jumping into this book if Lucy truly was the killer, because it's just like, that's no fun.
Yeah.
Especially the way that as time goes on and it's kind of revealed the way that Lucy kind of talks about Savvy is just like, it doesn't feel realistic. I think she genuinely cared about her friend, and this does not fit with her character, even though she is maybe a little bit more like sarcastic and sort of dark person. I just didn't believe that she could do that.
Yeah. I think in the beginning, before we even really knew anything about Lucy, I just feel like I didn't believe it because it felt like it would have been too easy if she had done it. But then at the same time, I didn't really understand. Oh, I guess they did mention that Lucy did suffer from, like, a brain injury. Or
yes, she did get hit.
A head trauma. But I feel like everyone kind of, like, skipped over that.
Yeah.
And people were talking about how she was, like, faking it and, like, pretend. And I was like, interesting. Like, that's an interesting take to have for somebody that has, like, physical evidence of a head trauma to be like, oh, she's faking it. She definitely killed Savvy. So it is interesting to think about that's how everybody perceived her. So what kind of perception did she have in the town at that time that people would think that she was lying?
Right. It kind of did suck that I guess we kind of got snippets of what people thought of Lucy pre the crime from, like, say, Emmett and Nina, people that were friends with her and liked her before that. But it really did feel like everyone was so hard on Lucy, and it felt like a lot of it was biased from this assumption that she killed Savvy and not necessarily based on, like, you know, prior evidence before that. It seemed like maybe she was a little bit more closed off in the past, but I don't think people really hated her. I think she was kind of a nothing burger, and then once this happened, everyone was like, you know what, she actually sucked the whole time.
Yes. I feel like, she was either just, like, not really super popular or anything like that, because even before the whole Savvy situation, for them to think that she was even capable of something like that, I feel like she was either just, like, not really as popular as Savvy, or maybe just, like, a little bit of a troublemaker, you know? I feel like she kind of hung out with that crew that wasn't, like, straight edged all the time. Not necessarily troublemakers, but they weren't, you know,
they just weren't, like, the popular kids.
Yes, they weren't popular. They weren't always doing what they were told, and et cetera, et cetera. So,
she did punch a guy, though. I did forget about that.
Yes, yeah.
But
so
it was warranted.
So I feel like maybe people just thought, like, oh, she is is a troublemaker. Like, she definitely did this. And then it was also interesting to see, like, on the other side, like, Savvy's personality and how opposite that was as well from how people perceived her.
Yeah. It was, in my opinion, really easy to determine, okay, these people are just so victims to the narrative that is being pushed out in a way, because like it was just immediately like Lucy's always been a bad person and Savvy was actually a saint, especially the way that like her mom talked about her, like she was just beloved by everyone.
Yes.
And she was a cheerleader and she was popular, and I think Lucy was always jealous, and it's like, what are you talking about?
Where is this coming from?
This. Yeah, it was just crazy, and it was like, okay, there's no way that Savvy was like as perfect as everyone thinks that she was, and like honestly, a little bit insulting to her character that she was much more nuanced than that.
I think you knew from the beginning that there was more nuance. Like, you knew from the beginning that these characters were not going to be as black and white as they were being portrayed.
Right. As we have learned from SpongeBob, Texans are stupid. So we have to remember that as we move through the story.
Okay, so speaking of perceptions, with kind of how Lucy was perceived and how Savvy was perceived, how do we think their, like, friendship was perceived? Do you have, like, thoughts specifically about, like, their friendship?
It feels like everyone, in terms of, like, the townsfolk, it felt like everyone perceived their friendship as almost fake, or they were like,
yes,
why are they friends?
Okay,
and, like,
I had the
made
same
it
thought.
out to be such a big deal.
Yes, I had the same thought. And I think it was because of the perception of, like, Lucy, and especially when she was in high school, punching that guy, being, like, kind of a troublemaker, and Savvy being popular, this good girl, you know, always did the right thing, that it wouldn't be possible that the two of them could be friends. And people, I feel like, really judged that.
Yeah, it just feels like a very high school mentality that, like, these sort of personas that we have when we're younger can define us when we're adults. And it just makes no sense. Everyone could be, not like everyone could be friends, but, like,
yes,
it's not as, like, simple as that. Like, we're all people and we can all connect on various things.
Yeah.
Like, why can't these two people be friends?
Yes.
It's so silly.
For sure. Yeah. And I do think that that also drived the whole idea that Lucy must have killed Savvy because their friendship wasn't real.
Right. And like
fake.
I bet she was always jealous of her because Savvy always had it all.
Yeah.
And Lucy clearly sucked.
Yeah.
Like, so oversimplified.
Yes, 100%. What about Lucy's relationship with her parents and her grandma? We can also talk about Beverly, your favorite character.
Yes, love Beverly. It seemed like, obviously, that her and Beverly have always had a really good relationship, and that, I don't know, the relationship that she had with her parents was a little bit odd to me, because it seemed like, generally speaking, she never had a great relationship with her mom, Kathleen.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Like, she is kind of a typical, like, Texas mom, and like, because Lucy doesn't fit in that mold, there's always going to be tension there. It's just a little bit conflicting to me in my head, the fact that it seemed like she had a good relationship with her dad, but then she was like, my dad can't even look at me because he thinks that I did it.
Yeah.
And she feels like he hates her, but in my mind I was like, I don't know if I necessarily get that vibe. Like, I think that he's trying, and I think that I mean, technically it was right that he did think that she did it.
Right.
But
yes.
I think he really loved her, and I thought that was actually really sweet, the way that, like, he really was trying to do his best for her.
I think he just really struggled, because I agree. I think he thought that she did it, but wasn't ever going to give her up, you know? So I think it was just this, I guess, I don't know what to call it, tug of war almost for him to be like, well, I don't really know how to look at you now, thinking that you committed this horrible crime, but also you're my daughter and I love you and I'm not going to, turn you in.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. So I do think that was kind of a complicated relationship. And then for Lucy on her end to be like, well, he thinks I did it. Like, that sucks to be looked at by someone, a parent, and have them like know that he thinks I did it. That sucks. And then for her mom, I mean, of course, her mom I also think she did it and was not shy about it.
No, she had to tell everyone about it.
Yeah, she was very...
Girl, what are you doing?
Yeah. That was a lot. There were a lot of Kathleen moments that I was like, what is happening right now?
Kathleen as a character, it's like, what are you? Why are you doing so many things?
But I will say, to that effect, like we talked about earlier, there were so many characters. I do think every character was pretty decently fleshed out. Like, they all had their very nuanced and specific personalities.
Yeah.
You know, everything was a little bit complex, which I did like because, again, it made it seem a little bit more relatable and
Right.
realistic.
Yeah, agreed. Kathleen was really something. She always would stick up for men, and I felt like, yeah, that feels on track.
Kathleen.
Like, it's just so crazy the difference between her parents that, like, her dad is so, like, you know, if you remember, you have to tell me first because he's trying to protect her and trying to keep her from being arrested.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Kathleen's like,
Well, I heard.
yeah, I think she did it.
Yeah.
I think she did, and I'm going to tell everyone about it.
And I'm going to tell everyone.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let Ivy, Savvy's mom, like, question her about all of this days after my own daughter had a traumatic brain injury of her own. That was kind of insane to me. I understand, you know, the sympathy for Ivy and having lost her daughter. Obviously, Savvy died. But I think everybody, including Lucy's parents, specifically at least her mom, if I'm recalling correctly, everybody seemed to just brush over that. You know, the fact that this was also traumatic for Lucy, even though she didn't die and, like, managed to survive it, she still suffered a lot. And for Ivy to then come in and be like, tell me what you know, like, you have to, please. I understand the pleading because of, you know, you lost your daughter, but also Lucy's going through things. And for Kathleen to kind of let Ivy just, like, trailblaze in there, like, I would not have let that happen to my daughter. I would have been like, I'm really sorry for your loss, but also, like, you can't come in here bombarding my daughter with all of these questions and, like, forcing answers out of her that she doesn't have, you know?
Ivy is very selfish at that moment for wanting answers for her daughter, which, like, you know, it's a kind of reasonable in the sense that, like, you see why
It's hard.
she feels that way, but it's also like, girl, come on. But then also, yeah, on Kathleen's side of it, it's like, why don't you care enough for your daughter?
Yes.
It's such a perception-based reality that she lives in, where she
Yes.
feels as though she has to please people.
Yeah.
She has to be like, well, I need to clear my name and my daughter's name, so I guess I'm gonna
let it happen.
like, question her.
Yeah.
And, like, the second that she gets an inkling, I think she feels the need to rat out her daughter because she has to separate herself and be like, well, we can't just pretend like it didn't happen.
I think it's just all about the reputation, right?
Yes.
Like, the reputation of, well, you know Lucy, she's always kind of been a little troubled. Like, there's, you know, this happened, but we're doing our best with her.
Right, she goes to Ivy and is like, she did it and I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Like,
Yeah.
don't be mad at me.
Yes, yeah. And it's nice at least that Lucy does have Beverly, her grandmother, that kind of has always believed in her and stuck up for her and doesn't have the same mentality, I guess, as Kathleen with the whole idea of, like, reputation and, like, keeping everything so pristine, 'cause she's always been very honest about how she feels about Lucy and, like, what happened with the
Right.
whole situation.
Yeah, she's a bad bitch. She's like,
Oh, yeah.
I love my family and I care about them and that is what matters first.
Yes.
These people can fuck off if they think that you did it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then she sees how it's affected Lucy to the degree of, like, moving to LA and stuff, and
Yeah.
basically kind of creates this whole scenario to keep her in Texas because she wants her granddaughter's name cleared. And she's
Yeah.
like, I know you didn't do it. And I think this guy's gonna help us figure it out.
Yes. Speaking of our main man, Ben Owens, I don't remember if anything was said about how he, like, found himself in this little small town in Texas. Like, how did he discover this whole crime situation?
That's kind of a good question. I don't remember either. I assume that he just happened upon it, like, in, like, a Reddit forum or maybe, like, commenters. Just
It must have been. And it must have been, like, big enough that because this was only the second season of Listen for the Lie.
Yes.
So it must have been big enough that it, like, got some attention that he was like, okay, I'm going to cover that one next.
Yeah, I do remember that at some point Beverly reached out to him. I don't know if it was necessarily, like, pre him even deciding. I think it might have still been after he decided that he was going to pursue this case.
Okay. How do we feel about when, like, he obviously comes into the town and he's, you know, close with Beverly, they're besties, and then Lucy kind of finds all of this out and then eventually agrees to be interviewed by Ben?
I was really surprised by that.
Yeah.
I kind of felt, I don't know how you felt about Ben, but there were definitely a lot of mentions of, like, well, Ben only really cares about himself. Like, at the end of the day, Ben's going to do what Ben's going to do, sort of thing. But I personally didn't always get that much of a vibe from him in, like, his interactions with Lucy. Like, I felt like that was a little bit of Lucy assuming the worst about him.
I agree. I think it was a little bit more of her assuming the worst, but I also don't think I blamed her, because it's not like he did come in very like, this is business. Mm-hmm. So I do think she just kind of assumed, with the way everyone in her town and even her parents assumed that she did it, I think she assumed the worst about Ben and him thinking that she just did it. You know, like her thinking, well, it doesn't matter what's going to happen with this podcast because he's just going to decide that I am the murderer.
Right, especially too, since I understand from his perspective that he can't just exactly outright be like, I don't think you did it.
Right.
Because he's trying to be, I think, unbiased in like any possible truth. But because of that, it does, I guess, leave a little bit more untrustworthiness there for Lucy. And of course, she's also dealt with, I think, her fair share of like media issues and stuff like that.
For sure. So yeah.
that probably also taints it as well.
Yeah.
But I definitely did feel like, even though that was sort of the narrative that we were supposed to be given of Ben, I didn't feel like, especially by the end, Ben kind of pulls through at the end.
Yeah.
That I was like, nah, I think Ben is a man of justice.
Yeah.
And he doesn't necessarily care about himself in the end. He does care about, like, the people involved.
I did have a little bit of a feeling in the beginning, like I wasn't sure why he was there. I wasn't sure like how he kind of found out about this whole thing. And I know we find out that Beverly kind of has a role in getting him there and getting him to interview everyone and ultimately interview Lucy. But I did kind of understand where she was coming from with being a little bit guarded with that. And then especially once they started sleeping together, I was like, it kind of feels like maybe Lucy and I diverged, and like she was thinking from the beginning that he was just going to paint her out to be the murderer regardless of what happened, and then kind of changed her mind about that once they started sleeping together. But for me, I maybe entertained the idea that he was just in it for the business and was just going to produce whatever he was going to produce and not really seek out the truth. And then it got worse for me once he started sleeping with her, because then I thought he's after something. Like he's trying to get on her good side. Like he's after, there's something going on. And because it's a mystery, you know, I'm like trying to figure out like who did it. And I don't think Ben did it, but I do think there was a moment in reading that I was like, there's something, it's suspicious. Like, is he in cahoots with somebody? Like, what's happening here?
You just think it was love?
No. No, absolutely not.
I was like, I like them together.
I never thought it was love. Even after, like, towards the end of the book, and obviously you're right, Ben does come in clutch, and then, you know, even before the very, very end, he goes to Beverly's birthday party and he's very nice. Everybody, you know, kind of likes him. And then he starts producing podcast episodes that paint other people in some suspicious lighting. Even after that, when I read those chapters and I thought, oh, okay, like maybe he is, you know, out to seek the truth and he's not just going to publish bullshit about Lucy and like paint her out to be the murderer. Even then I was like, it's not love. Like they're just sleeping together. I never was like, they're in love. I was like, they're just boning.
I was pro.
I think it was because I was like, this is a mystery thriller. Like, what is romance doing in here?
Anything can happen. You never know.
I was honestly pretty anti the romance. I was like, why is this happening?
I really liked them together. I thought they were a good fit.
I didn't think it was necessary. Like, I mean, it was fine. I just didn't think, I was like, why are they... I mean, when they were just sleeping together, I was like, okay, it's just sex, like whatever. But I never was like, they should get together. When they go back to California, like they should date. I never was like, I was like, we have a crime to solve. Like, let's in and out. Like, let's go. Put those clothes back on. We've got things to do.
You know, I think Ben just was feeling the Texas all around.
It must have been.
I gotta sleep with this girl.
I have to.
Yeah, honestly surprising we didn't get another cheating reveal.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Why not? Throw it in.
I was like, why is this happening? Like, we've got things to do. Put your clothes back on.
I will say one thing about their relationship that I was like, this is not my thing, is when I actually can't remember exactly what it was. I just remember that my comment in the story graph was, "This is not my kink."
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Sits down on him and is like, maybe I did kill her, and like, maybe I'll kill you. Oh wait, I think she.
And he was into it.
Yes. He was like, "What are you thinking of?" And she was like, "Killing you." Because,
Yeah.
You know, and then he's like into it, and I was like, what is
yeah. I'm telling you, I was not ever really into them. Exhibit A.
That was a minor setback. But yeah, I will admit they lost me.
Yeah.
For a moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of that, I don't think we touched on yet the fact that Lucy, like, hears this voice in her head and it's constantly telling her to kill people.
Yeah. It's really crazy. I did not expect it to really turn into something the way that it does. But I liked the direction that it went in.
Yeah.
Where it was actually savvy.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what was happening with that. And even with that going on, I didn't ever really think Lucy did it. Like, I felt like there was more to the story there. So I was never on board the Lucy is the murderer train. But it did feel kind of weird to me that, like, why are you thinking about killing people if you didn't, like, have a hand in the murder, or
right.
Maybe it was an accident, maybe it was like some sort of self-defense. Like, what? There's more here. Like, there's more to the story, I guess. And then of course later we find out that it's Savvy, and we find out that Savvy is the one with a little bit more of a murderous streak.
Yeah. I thought it made sense. I mean, not like 100% made sense, but I was like, I guess I can kind of see how, like, because she is trying to put herself in the position of understanding if she could have killed Savvy, that, like,
yeah.
Sure, that could be a thing, but then once it gets revealed that it's like, oh yeah, this is Savvy's voice, and this is why, because she genuinely was like, yeah, let's kill Matt.
Let's kill him.
Actually,
I've killed someone before. Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that.
I couldn't really believe it, mostly because of the nonchalance with which she said it.
Yeah.
She was like, I killed this man. He deserved it. And
she's
listen.
like, and I do it again.
And I do it again. And listen. I mean, who among the ladies hasn't thought about killing a man? But Savvy, she was all for it. Like, there was not a hint of I'm joking or
I feel a little bad.
I feel bad about this. She literally was like, no, I've done it and I would do it again.
Yeah. Again, a really crazy, just completely opposite of what everyone perceived of her.
Everyone thought of her.
That she had this in her to not only kill someone, but to be 100% guilt-free of it.
Yeah. Yeah, she had no regrets. Speaking of Matt, kind of bringing him back up, this whole lead up to the crime kind of started with the conversation of Lucy and Savvy killing Matt.
Yeah. And then it gets revealed to us that it's because of the abuse.
Yeah.
Honestly, when it was revealed that he was abusing her, I was like, Matt did it. It was Matt.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I know it's too early and there's got to be more information, but, like...
I kind of felt the same way Lucy felt, where she was like, I wish it was Matt, but I don't think it's him. I feel like that's kind of how I felt throughout the whole thing, where it just didn't quite align that it would have been Matt. But similar to Lucy, I was like, it would be so easy if it was.
Yeah.
Like, it would be so much easier if it were him, you know?
I gotta say, though, one thing about Matt that always confused me, and I was hoping for a bit more, like, information on it throughout the book, was that it was always noted that Lucy, in these times, whenever he would abuse her, she, a couple of times, maybe fought back.
Yeah.
But he would always, like, really exaggerate and was like, we both did things that we shouldn't have, and, like, well, you shouldn't have hit me first. And, like, there was almost a degree of borderline, like, you're making this up. Like, that didn't happen.
I thought it was very realistic, though, of how domestic violence cases kind of go. Or how, like, abuse, even if it's not physical, how, like, emotional abuse goes in relationships that happen to, unfortunately, feature abuse. I do think it was very, you know, like, he would get mad at her and, like, yell at her, and maybe he wouldn't touch her, but he would get in her face, and so then she would push him. And then he would automatically be like, well, you're the abusive one because
Right.
you're the one that put your hands on me, when obviously he was inciting that kind of violence and her getting in her face, yelling at her, being drunk. He was also an alcoholic.
Yeah. The one thing about him, I guess, I mean, not that, like, I think manipulation is interesting because I think a lot of times people perceive manipulation as like a very calculated thing. And obviously I do think that it's not always that way. I think people can be manipulative without really intending to be.
Oh, sure.
So it is very possible that Matt was kind of that sort of category of being manipulative without necessarily trying to be. But I feel like Lucy at times also was maybe thrown by this, that it felt like he genuinely believed she somehow did start these things. So that was part of what I was curious about, but I did also forget that he was an alcoholic. So maybe that also played in a bit of this distortion of his memories.
I'm sure it played into it. I also think it was a lot more self-preservation than it was him being purposefully manipulative. I think it was more like, well, you also did it, I also did it, like, we're both at fault here, but it's not just my fault, like, it couldn't be, you know, just because I yelled at you, like, you didn't have to hit me, like, that's on you, you know, and I think that also was hard for Lucy to be like, well, I also did things, like, I am also a part of the problem.
Right.
When really, I mean, she was very much a victim in this situation with him kind of bringing the problem to her. What other reaction does she have other than to protect herself?
Yeah. Honestly, when you put it that way, it does really fall in line of, like, that is a pretty normal, sadly normal.
Sadly,
like,
yes.
reaction that, like, when people kind of get in trouble, like, their instinct is to, like, justify what they did.
Exactly.
Whereas, obviously, on Lucy's end, she's overly cognizant of, like, even if it was warranted, I still did the bad thing.
I still did it, yeah.
So it really sucks in that way. But I do think it's interesting the way that, like, you see a little bit of that same self-preservation in action when Emmett gets caught. Towards the end, I remember, like, when Lucy's kind of ambushing him with stuff, he starts sort of doing a similar thing of, like, clearly misremembering, kind of crafting a narrative where he was the victim.
For sure.
And so that is kind of interesting. This is sort of just like a normal, I guess, innate reaction. Not necessarily maybe in, like, men, but at least in these guys, they're doing something wrong.
Right.
And it's like, bro, you killed a woman.
I wish we got a little bit more of that. I think I talked about it earlier in my initial review of the book that I didn't really see it coming with Emmett until pretty much that scene when Lucy kind of starts to confront him and we figure out that he is the one that did it, you know, after she remembers everything. I wish we had gotten more, I don't know, breadcrumbs, I guess, of that. Because I would have loved to see if we could have picked up on, like, oh, Emmett kind of has the same self-preservation and manipulation that Matt has. Whereas we kind of just got it at the end, which was fine. And it was, like you said, very interesting to read about and kind of see how his character changed. But I do think it would have been fun to see. It could have been breadcrumbed throughout the story. Or maybe it was and we just didn't pick up on it.
Right. It was just so subtle.
It was so subtle that we didn't pick up on it. Talking a little bit now about Emmett. So obviously we know that he is the one that killed Savvy. And he kind of has this, you know, Mr. Nice Guy personality, but is really aggressive when it comes to Lucy should be with me. Like, she should be thanking me. I do all of this stuff for her. That it's like, why? This isn't obviously the first time, whether it be in fiction media or unfortunately nonfiction media, that this has been a narrative that has been portrayed by men.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's exactly the same sort of mentality that has driven a lot of school shootings and things like that. I mean, not necessarily, I guess, school shootings, but, like, public shootings, I guess. That, like, men feel rejected by women in some way. They think that they're deserving of something that they can't have, and so they lash out in a very insane and violent way. It's all kind of happening in the moment that he was trying to, like, hit on Lucy, and then Lucy was kind of rejecting him, and then Savvy's also pushing, like, hey, she's not interested, let's go. Right. And so he's not getting what he wants at that moment and just goes fucking nuts.
Yeah. So obviously at the wedding, we have Emmett, you know, kind of making out with Lucy, feeling her up, and then Lucy leaves to go with Savvy, and he's kind of like, whoa, like, what's going on? I feel like there was something here, kind of chases after them, and is almost in a way demanding this relationship or whatever it is that he thinks he deserves from Lucy. And, like, talking about kind of like how, you know, they've been friends this whole time. They have this kind of established relationship. They've already been making out. Like, why not? Like, what's going on? Like, let's keep. And Lucy, you kind of see, like we talked about earlier in the podcast, they're kind of like opposite personalities of the perception of what the town had of them, where Lucy kind of feels bad about it. And she's like, well, okay, I guess like Emmett's my friend. Like, I'll go talk to him. And Savvy's like, you don't have to. Like, I will take you home.
Yeah.
Let's go. You know, and then she's like, no, it's fine. Like, Emmett can take me home. Like, I'll go, you know, talk to him or whatever. And I think as a reader in that moment, I was also like, okay, like, we know what's going to happen here, Lucy, if you go with him. Like, he's going to try to coerce you into doing something that you maybe don't want to do, something that he thinks he has a right to take from you. Like, what's going on here? And then thankfully, you know, Savvy kind of hangs around and is still there. Yeah. So, which, I mean, thank God for the situation, but also R.I.P. Savvy.
Yeah. At her cost.
But yeah, it kind of just like cycles from there. So it's just interesting to, like what we were talking about a little bit earlier, you know, the personality of Emmett and the similar situation of self-preservation and thinking that he deserves something and kind of using that as his defense of everything that happened or everything that he did to lead to what ultimately happened.
Right, and it's easy to blame, like, well, it wouldn't have gotten so out of hand if Savvy wasn't there.
Right.
All that sort of stuff, too. From his standpoint, he's like, well, what was wrong with what I did? Like, we've made out before.
Yeah, exactly. She clearly wanted it. Like,
right, even though it's like, well, you didn't ask if she wanted it.
Also, she can change her mind.
Yes, that's
like,
true.
she can make out with you and then be like, okay, that's all I want right now.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, actually, in that moment, she was literally kind of having that thought. I mean, I feel like the first time they made out, she didn't exactly love it either, but she was a little like, well, maybe it was just like that moment. And then when the second time it happened, she was kind of like, yeah, actually, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's allowed to in that moment be like, now that I've thought about it, I've changed my mind.
I actually don't want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't deserve it just because you've been there the whole time.
Yes, that's not, I mean, it's this whole idea, which I hate, of like, being friend zoned. That's not a thing. Like, if you believe that you're being friend zoned, why is the ultimate goal to get with a woman romantically or sexually? And that, like, oh, to get to that point, I should just pretend to be her friend. Like, you, from the beginning, the idea of being friend zoned, you are the one that is the problem. Like, why can't you just be friends with her to be friends with her, or be nice to her to be nice to her? Like, why, from the beginning, you're the one that's plotting to get to the ultimate, what you feel is the ultimate thing that you deserve, which is a romantic or sexual relationship. So friend zoning is, I mean, just that whole concept is gross to me.
Right. Also, I do want to say, something kind of crazy to think in retrospect is the way that Emmett's introduced into the story initially, just as like a person that we don't know had any involvement. And it's so crazy that like he literally kills her best friend and it's like,
yes,
now maybe we can be together.
Yes.
Like,
well, okay, but do we remember kind of how, going back to that, to the actual like crime, the actual murder, I guess. So Savvy comes back and she's like, okay, it's time to go. Like, let's go, Lucy. And then, you know, things escalate. Emmett ends up like chasing after them. Yeah. They're running in the dark. You know, he's chasing after them. He grabs something from his truck to use as a weapon against these women who are not trying to hurt him. They quite literally are just trying to get away from him. Yeah. And he chases after them with something that he grabbed from his truck as a weapon. And then his initial intent was to hit Lucy.
Yes! What was the plan, my man?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm sure eventually it would have been like maybe both of them or something, because Savvy would have just been there. Like, what was the plan?
He just was mad, and he had to take it out on them.
Yeah.
Because truly, also, it's like, there's no reason, not that there would even be a reason in this case, but it's not even as though, like, oh, they caught you in a crime or something.
Yes.
Like, they are simply rejecting you, and you feel a little bad, and your ego's a little hurt.
Yes.
And this is how you're going to react.
It was definitely an ego thing. Because, yeah, it wasn't like a crime had been committed yet. Like, you shouldn't have done it, but, you know, they were fine with just leaving. Like, if you had just let them leave.
Yeah.
It would have been, and then obviously, you know, the relationship is torn. Like, it's not like Savvy would have let you hang around anymore. Lucy would have wanted it anymore either. But still, like, you know, ego bruised, that would have been the worst thing that would have happened. I mean, just an insane thing to have
like,
happened. And
imagine just like someone saying no to you, and it's like, well, I'd better attempt to kill them.
well, if I can't have you, no one can.
Goodness gracious.
I mean, yeah, just wild. And then, like we talked about, very sad for Savvy to have been there and just for that to have happened. I think very bittersweet because it was very like, obviously she died.
Yeah.
But also the love and protection that she had for Lucy all the way to the very end,
Yeah,
you know?
she literally did die saving her.
Yeah.
And she was very dedicated. Like, I mean, from the get-go, she sensed that something was off, and that's why she didn't leave.
That's why she stayed.
It's just so sad. And,
Yeah.
like, even from the get-go, like, obviously, again, a little misguided, maybe, in she's wanting to kill Matt and stuff like that, but, like, signs of it even there, of just, like, she cares so much about her friends and their well-being.
Yes, she's truly, she's a girl's girl, ride or die, you know?
Yeah.
So...
Speaking of this crime, though, not to, like, backtrack too much, but did you have any other, like, suspects that you felt like could have been the murderer prior to finding out it was Emmett?
Truly, you know, like I said earlier when we were kind of talking about Matt, truly, I didn't think it was him, but I thought it would be so much easier if it were. I thought for a little bit, not that Ben did it, but there was something off about him,
Right.
that maybe he knew who did it and was trying to like fabricate this whole story. Other than the two of them, I don't think I had very strong ideas of who I thought it might be. Did you?
I did have one, and I felt like I had a decent, like, case.
Okay.
These are the breadcrumbs, and then we're gonna figure out, like, a big reason as to why. So my guess as who the culprit was Don, her dad.
Okay.
Here are the breadcrumbs that I picked up on that led me to sort of that thought process.
Okay, yes.
The first one was that whenever we get the reveal that Kathleen was sleeping with Colin, it's mentioned that, which, again, that's just fucking hilarious.
Also wild.
Yeah, like, for what?
I feel like one of the, kind of like what you were talking about where there were like random people kind of being interviewed, I also thought that was kind of a random, like, what is happening?
And especially the way that Kathleen was like, he aired it out, now everyone's gonna think I did it. And it's like, why would anyone think you would do it? Because you're sleeping with another man. Like, it literally, that's
Is it because he was dating Savvy?
I guess, but like also that was her alibi. Like they were sleeping with each other.
Yes.
At the time that it would have been happening.
I mean, like we talked about, it was definitely just about the perception and reputation for Kathleen.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Which is hilarious because, again, and the reason why I thought it was Dawn, we then get the reveal that they both, Dawn and Kathleen, are cheating on each other.
They had both been sleeping with
like,
other people.
He openly just would like have his laptop open and someone would message him and Kathleen would be like, one of your girlfriends is talking to you. And so the fact that we got that introduction that like he was also cheating on her, but then no naming of who he might have been sleeping with, I was like, interesting. And so have you been sleeping with Savvy? I was like, that'd be crazy.
That would be crazy.
Maybe there's something in that realm of people at least. And then there was also a really small tidbit, and I can't actually remember now what the full story of it was, but I remember that there was a time that, like, at a diner, I think, Matt was talking to Dawn, and he maybe called Lucy a slut or something, or he called someone else a slut to Dawn. And Dawn, like, maybe didn't exactly, like, shoot him down, but he also, I don't know, it was a little bit like he reacted a bit weird, and I was like, if he's not reprimanding Matt in a moment like that, then like I'm a little sus of his character in a way in that moment. I can't remember the exact details. I should have written that one down. But those were kind of my two main things that I was like, well, if Matt's a bad guy basically and Dawn in that moment could have maybe said something and didn't, what is there to Dawn that we don't know about?
Yeah.
And then I was trying to connect that also to like why he would care so much about what Savvy would say. Like, is he worried about her revealing something about
him? Sure.
And that's why he cared so much about, like, if you remember anything, you have to tell me.
Yeah.
And that way he could kind of explain his side and get his name cleared, that sort of thing. So that was the trajectory that I was down. And then, of course, it was revealed that basically Matt was also there at the scene of the crime.
Right.
And then he went to Dawn. / Kathleen, I think.
Yeah.
At the very least, Dawn. And so that was why he had kind of all this suspicion around him, was that he kind of had an involvement. It's crazy that he and Kathleen do get arrested.
I mean, because they, you know, kind of knew.
But did Dawn and Kathleen know that Emmett was there? I didn't think they did.
I mean, it was very, you know, Matt was already secondhand, so it was very third hand for Dawn and
Right.
Kathleen, because it was just all coming from Matt's mouth, and them believing him. And I think that's kind of also where Lucy was like, well, see you in prison, because I told you one story, Matt told you another, and you chose to believe his story versus my own.
Right.
I don't know.
It's crazy, though, that Matt literally did see Emmett there and just was like, well, yeah.
And didn't, Well, and because didn't Emmett say something about like, oh, I just happened upon that. He like fabricated some sort of story of like why he was there, right?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was now, but he did
yeah,
something.
So I think,
But it didn't make sense.
Man on man, kind of just like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, honestly, it was all very planned out well, that we had all these little seeds of men believing in other men. Everyone's always going to choose to believe a man. And then in the end, the way that we kind of get everyone responsible in trouble is because Ben, a man, just kind of makes up a lie to help the truth get along and get them all arrested.
Did we have any feelings about that? Because, we have been talking this whole time about like the men in this story. They haven't been very straight-laced, like they've been lying, very hard to believe in situations, and not very believing of the people who are trying to get the truth out there. Ben kind of perpetuates that a little bit in the end, even though it does get us to the truth. So did we have any feelings about that?
I'm fine with it.
Got it.
Yeah, personally. Is it maybe the morally correct thing to do? It's hard because on one hand, it's like, if you didn't do it, would all of these bad people be arrested? Like, would if basically it didn't end up changing the outcome, then it's like, well, that's an unfortunate, unnecessary lie. But I do think you have to kind of understand, like, the importance of gender roles and the fact that there is a concern that the police will believe something that Emmett says, and therefore justice is still not served.
Of course,
so, like, maybe
it's tough.
Not necessarily in every situation, but I do kind of a little bit believe in, like, look, if you got to do a bad thing to get the right thing to happen.
I mean, this is the morally gray, like not very black and white situation that, is unfortunately existing in our real-time world as well. Because like what you were saying, it's Lucy against Emmett, and, the whole town kind of already believes this story about Lucy that Emmett doesn't really have. He doesn't really have this negative backstory about him. So if he were to just say something different, it would be much easier for everybody to believe him. And then on top of that, add to the fact that, he is a man in kind of what we know as a male-dominated world. So Ben does like drop a little bit of a white lie, kind of like a means to an end sort of situation. And it's hard to say if, I mean, for me as well, I'm also kind of, we got to where we needed to get to for the story to resolve itself, and for Savvy to kind of get justice, and for Lucy to kind of get closure. So I do think that was very important. And Ben wasn't, it was a lie, but it wasn't all a lie. He did say that Emmett did these things. Emmett is kind of a bad guy, which isn't a lie. Maybe just the situation in which it happened was a lie, but the whole thing itself wasn't a lie. It's hard to say that this is like the best case scenario, but I think for the cards that we were dealt, it got us to where we needed to go, I guess.
Right. I think it is hard when, like, these systems in themselves are corrupt,
yeah,
sort of, and so sometimes you can't always just,
what's right and what's wrong is,
you can't just do the right thing and assume that'll get you somewhere when the system is corrupt.
Yeah, yeah, which is a testament to the story as a whole.
Yeah.
Overall, happy that it got solved, happy that Lucy kind of got some closure, happy that she got closure for Savvy as well.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like also the whole voice in her head aspect has really improved.
Yeah.
So it's really worked out for the best.
Yeah.
For overall Lucy.
Yes, yeah. And who knows, maybe she'll go back to California and have a whirlwind romance with Mr. Ben Owens. Maybe Beverly will come out and visit.
Yeah. But I don't know, she's got a lot of dates back in.
She's got a lot going on, our girl Beverly.
Yeah. I do want to end with just a couple of my favorite quotes that involve Beverly, because I was writing them down as I was reading, and it was so funny.
Our girl Beverly.
Yes. When Lucy has her phone call with Beverly in the very beginning and she tells her that she was fired, Beverly responds, "Oh, perfect. I mean, I'm sorry." Great,
you can come out to Texas.
Exactly. There was another one where Lucy says, "Please tell me you didn't plan this entire party just to get me to talk to that podcaster." I don't know why you're asking. It's pretty obvious that's exactly what I did.
Come on, Lucy.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. I did write, "That's right, Beverly. Men always believe each other." So.
Oh, Bev. I do like how you reenacted all of Beverly's quotes in a Southern accent. That was perfect.
That one was a little bit more, I was kind of doing my Ginny and Georgia.
Oh, I see. Well, loved that. Loved that that's how we portrayed our girl Bev.
Thank you.
Nice and tidy end. As tidy as you can get for a book like this. But overall, really enjoyed it.
Yes, agreed.
Glad we got another spooky read in for our spooky, I guess it's not technically spooky season anymore, but we are moving into Hoa 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 season. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. We are very excited for this upcoming season because we are reading... Carly, why don't you tell everybody?
We've been referencing it all year. Almost all year. But it is finally time. We are going to be reading Twilight by Stephanie Meyer.
So exciting.
For my first time, for Sam's second or...
Probably second or third time. It's been a while. I was a big Twilight girly back when it came out, you know, like high school, middle school era. But Carly's never read it, so we're very excited to kind of be throwing it back to what I wouldn't necessarily call a classic, but I think a classic in terms of like our generation. Like it was very prominent in like the culture of our generation.
Right. There's so few books that have as much resonance with our sort of generation the way that these books do. You know, it's really only Harry Potter, Twilight, and Hunger Games. I feel like that's kind of it. There's some books that like got close that maybe did get movie adaptations, but these were like the big ones that really stuck out. So it is kind of crazy to really be reading these for the first time as an adult. So
very exciting.
I'm very excited. I'm very curious to see what all the hubbub is about. So I'm going to read the back of the book summary, which apparently is very iconic, as I was told. So, about 3 things I was absolutely positive. First, Edward was a vampire. Second, there was a part of him, and I didn't know how dominant that part might be, that thirsted for my blood. And third, I was unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him. And that's it. That's all.
If you know, you know.
So, that's what we're reading in the next episode.
Yes.
It's been a long time coming.
It has. Yeah, we're also very excited about this episode, not just because it'll be Carly's first time reading Twilight and my opportunity to kind of indoctrinate her into this fandom, but we also are doing our first collaboration. Carly, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. We are going to be partnering with Exploring the Meadow to talk about our book review of Twilight for me for the first time. So it's going to be really exciting. They have a podcast all about Twilight where they do a bunch of different deep dives into various topics in the Twilight world. So it'll be really fun to have such high-level experts on the pod with us to talk about this book.
Yes, yeah, we're incredibly excited for this episode. We do have to wait a little bit before the episode comes out. We have an off-the-shelf, as we do after this episode comes out. That will be coming out Tuesday, December 2nd. And then following that, Tuesday, December 16th will be our book club episode over Twilight and our final episode of the year.
Yes, it's so crazy that we're actually coming to an end this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't worry. We will be back.
We will be back.
But we are going to take a little break for the holidays. So,
yeah, we will have... After the 16th, we will have a couple weeks off where we won't be producing any podcast episodes to kind of give us some time to reevaluate and, you know, figure out another great year ahead for you guys.
Yeah. And be sure to look out on our social media because we will be posting about what books we should cover for the next year. So if you want to have a say and like want to partake in that conversation, be sure to follow us over there.
Yeah, 100%.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks for listening to the latest episode of our hit podcast, Read Receipts with Carly and Sam. Everything that you hear in this podcast is curated, recorded, and edited by us truly, with special thanks to the authors of the books that we cover and Pixabay for the music that we play. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you like to listen. And for more of our content in between shows, give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at the Read Receipts Pod. We love to see new followers kind of join us over there, see what we're up to, see what kind of books that we might be into reading in the next year. So please, please, please follow along. Until our next read, bye!